My name's Earl Riopelle. I grew up and was raised in Argyle, Minnesota. Part of my residence here, I go to Arizona for the winter. I have the best of two worlds. Went to high school, grade school, high school, 1-year college at Bemidji State College. Played 3 sports in high school. I guess after high school and after a year of college, I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. So after harvest, there was a group of us, Paul St. Germain, Elmer Panic, myself from Argyle, decided we were going to volunteer for the draft, and we did. And I kind of was not sure if I was going to be accepted because I had polio, and at 4 years old I was paralyzed from the waist down, but the good Lord took good care of me, and I survived good and was able to go into the service. Along with us that got inducted, there was 2 from Stephen, Allard Carlson, and Dwayne Buddy Hooper, 3 from Lake Bronson, Isaacson, Robert Isaacson, and there was a Pearson, I can't remember his first name, and a Weberg. And so it was almost like old home week because I played sports against the Stephen people and the Lake Bronson people. Then we also had 2 young gentlemen from East Grand Forks that were inducted at the same time, and their story was they were both about 17, so it was either go to reform school or go into the service. So they ended up on the buddy system going into the service, had good duty. One was a pretty big guy. He played football in Hawaii, and his partner followed him around. So that was kind of the story at getting inducted. We all went to Fort Carson, Colorado. We were inducted on the 21st of November, and then we took a bus to Fort Carson, Colorado from Fargo. We were there till about December 21st, and then we were sent home, or able to go home for Christmas. So we had it pretty good there a month. We could complain a little bit about all our marching and all our PT and all that, but then we went home for Christmas. I think we had probably, I want to say 10-day leave. So we came back right after Christmas and finished our basic. And then we were able to come home again. I ended up with mumps. I went into the doctor, or I don't even know what you call it anymore, where you go when you're not feeling good. Well, anyway, I had a high fever, so they sent me to the doctor, and they said, your wisdom teeth are bad, so they pulled my wisdom teeth out.
Well, you had the mumps?
I had the mumps then, really, actually the mumps. Not trouble with my teeth, but they figured swollen glands, it must be your wisdom teeth. So then we got released from basic, and we could come home again, but I was still in the hospital with the mumps. So my friends, Elmer and Paul and all these guys, they loaded all my stuff, took all my stuff from basic and loaded it up, and they almost kind of broke me out of the hospital, and we came home again. So we were coming and going pretty often.
It's like 1,200 miles.
Yeah, yeah. Well, after basic, then most of us went to Fort Hood, Texas. Not all of us, but most of us went to Fort Hood, Texas, and that was our second 8 weeks. And did a little bit of PT, I mean a lot of PT yet, and I was assigned to administration company, and we were connected to an artillery company. And my job was to take and compile morning reports from all the companies in the battalion. So every morning, 5 days a week, the morning reports would come in with the company clerks, and then I would have to compile that and put little boxes. I typed little boxes in little squares just about the rest of the time I was in the service. But,
maybe you said that, but what division was that?
501st Administration, but then it was the 1st Armored Division that we were assigned to. So I was around artillery, not that I was out in the field a lot with artillery, but once in a while we'd go out on maneuvers, just I suppose to keep us in the know what was going on. But I didn't spend a lot of time out in the field like the infantry or the actual people that were in the artillery, because that was an everyday deal for them, bivouacs. So then that kind of went on as normal. I was just like, I was going to work every morning and had, you know, a certain amount of time off on weekends. And we had an extra duty. I mean, I would do KP or different duties, but it was nothing like basic or anything. Just we were in the service. We had to do what they told us to do.
So did you tour the area at all? Around, I know, Clean, Texas and...
Yes, I think we knew half the towns in Texas at one time. I mean, if we'd get a weekend off, when we were in Colorado, we had Fort Carson, that's where we were stationed. Then we went to Denver, and we went to different towns just to get away for maybe a day or so. And
so
in Texas...
When you were in Fort Carson, you were right below, was it Mount Everest? Pikes Peak.
Yeah.
Mount Everest. But did you, it was winter time, so I'm sure you didn't climb it, did you?
Well, it felt like you were climbing it, but it was smaller peaks, I guess. And the worst thing about climbing, in the morning you're pretty fresh and it goes pretty good climbing. But coming downhill, you know, you're tired and it's kind of slippery and you know, you got a backpack. And
trying to hold yourself up?
Trying to hold yourself up. So it was a challenge, and you know, we had quite a few that didn't make it. Some that physically weren't in shape to start with, you know, and we were attached to our company in basic, or I guess I'm backing up now. There was a lot of people from Chicago, and they were older, and some were married, and they really had a hard time adjusting. I mean, for us, you know, 20, 21 years old, it seemed like, you know, go out and have a few beers at the PX if we had a chance, but they just really struggled and a lot of them, I think, got out on some type of a discharge that, you know, they just couldn't handle the pressure and being away from home and stuff. So it was sad, because I had a bunkmate that he'd cry at night, you know, and he had a couple of kids and a wife, and that was just basic training. So, you know, war would have been really...
They'd never been away from home before, never...
No, yeah. And they were established, you know, where we were, you know, we didn't know which direction we were going when we were here, so when we got there, we were the same way. We'll follow whatever they tell us. And, well, then went back to Fort Hood, Texas. It was pretty much like a job. I'd go to the office every day, and every morning the clerks would come in, and if they had mistakes, I either had to send them back or help them correct their mistakes. And most of them were kind of young and had a hard time really filling out that report right. So I got to have a lot of good friends just for helping them get their paperwork straight.
Sure.
Then my copies every day were sent out. I think I had 4 copies, and one stayed there and one went to Washington, D.C., and I don't know, Pentagon and wherever they were sent. So, well, then I guess we came home probably on leave once after that. Well, between basic and Fort Hood, it was kind of funny. We'd come home on a bus, and then going back, we hitched a ride to Oklahoma with Dean Parent. He had a car. I think he charged us. And then in Oklahoma, we had to get to Fort Hood, Texas, and so we bought a car, a 49 Dodge car, no registration, no license plates. And we made it to Fort Hood. And then when we were in Fort Hood, we just parked it at a junkyard, and whenever we needed a car on a weekend, we'd go take a license off a junk car and put it on that 49 Dodge and go. Well, one trip home, we didn't make it with the 49 Dodge. It blew up on us. So we ended up trading cars in Kansas. That was a fiasco. It was probably 8, 9 o'clock at night, and 3 of us were demonstrating different cars this guy had. One was a Studebaker and one was a 51 Ford. And I think one was Chrysler Prada. Well, we bought the 51 Ford then, the 5 of us. So that was kind of interesting time. Back to Fort Hood. Everything kind of went normal until the Cuban crisis kind of was coming on pretty strong. So the infantry, which Elmer and Paul were in, they shipped out about, I would say 5 days before I did. So Elmer had a car there, and they had 24 hours to get all their personal stuff, their cars off post. Didn't matter where. I mean, they had to just get it off post. So I ended up at a buddy in Texas, and him and I drove my car and Elmer's car to his parents' place in Texas. Well, Elmer's car didn't make it. The motor went about halfway to where we were going. So we stopped at a farm and he said, "Oh, you can park it out in the pasture there somewhere. Just leave it." And it was full right to the Elmer's stuff, Paul's stuff, Allard had some stuff. Everybody that could pack their stuff in here. So we left it there, and this friend of mine left his car, or I left my car with his parents. His parents drove us back. And they never had a car, so they were happy to get a car there. Diboll, Texas, way on the Louisiana border. Pretty poor area. They were really poor people. So then I shipped out, I flew out with all our office equipment, but the infantry had gone ahead with the artillery on trains. And this must have been about the middle of September or so. So I got there probably third week of September or something, about 5 days behind them. We set up tents, everything, you slept, your offices were in tents. It was pretty cool in Fort Stewart, Georgia. That's where we went. We had potbelly stoves, burned coal, so by the first week or so you could see the stars when you laid in bed because sparks from the coal stove was burning holes in the tent. And those typewriters didn't work very good in the cold either. But we really didn't know the danger that we were getting into at that time. I mean,
so Earl, Cuban crisis, that was when Russians were moving missiles into Cuba, right?
Cuba, right?
Okay.
Yep. And Kennedy was the president, and there'd been some negotiations going on and some threats, I guess, and nothing was happening. So I think he kind of decided to pull their bluff, and he moved a lot of troops to Georgia, to the East Coast, different areas on the East Coast. And anyway, it was solved, I think the Cuban crisis actually started about the middle of, I think the 10th or 12th October, and lasted actually just for 2 weeks. But the preparation was a month or two earlier. So we stayed there another probably month, because then we came home for Christmas after that. Kennedy toured the post after they settled, or
it was pretty stressful there for quite a while.
It was, yeah. It was, and when you're in a service, it's all rumors. I mean, unless you're up. So we didn't know, if we were going on water, going by air, or where we were going. Well, it was pretty stressful. And then we came home again for Christmas. We must have just got back to Fort Hood, Texas. We moved everything back. I came on a train back to Fort Hood, Texas, and it was kind of exciting because we were kind of heroes. I mean, not that we were, but the people were really thankful. I mean, you'd stop at a station and people would line up, and girls would wave, and so
it's a good time.
It was a good time. Yeah, you felt like you'd done your job, even though you were just doing your job. So that pretty much went back to Texas, and kind of same old then again.
How long were you in Fort Hood?
I was in Fort Hood, let's see, I suppose about a year and a half. I did get out early for harvest. Elmer and I got out. I don't think Paul did because I don't know why, but Elmer and I got out early to help. We got out in August to help with harvest. So, and I don't know.
It's quite a few guys got out early for that reason.
Yeah, it was a 3-month early out.
So you're mustered out now?
Yeah.
You fill out your own paperwork then?
Well, no, but I knew friends that did. I ended up a little more leave than I probably had coming, but it's so. But I mean, it was a good part of my life because I say you put a boy in the service, he comes out a man if he wants to be. If he doesn't want to be, and then we had to spend 2 years of inactive duty, which I went to summer camp at Fort Ripley.
We did have to report summer camp. Did you have to do meetings too then, or
no
just
meetings,
summer
the
camp?
2 weeks, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and then then I had to spend another 2 years after that before I could join the Legion. It was a 6-year, I think because I volunteered for the draft. It was a 6-year commitment. So I was out 4 years before I could join the Legion.
Where did you go to summer camp?
Fort Ripley in Minnesota,
Okay.
yeah, around center of the state.
Both times?
Yeah, well, the second time I didn't go. Second year. I'll tell you the story after.
Okay.
Well, part of it for farming, but yeah, there was a little more to it.
So you're out of the service now,
Yeah.
and what did you do?
Well, I helped my dad on the farm first year, I guess the first couple years. And then about a year later, I got married in '64, so I got out in '63, so it had been only a year, a little over a year. And then first year we went to California, my wife Kathy and I, and our plans were maybe to stay there, but I think we got kind of both home.
What were you doing in California?
I was working at a refinery, kind of a labor type, but I did a little bit of everything. I worked in like oil canning, and I worked up on the stacks. What they do is these honeycombs where the raw product runs through, the honeycomb collects the impurities. So I was up 100 and some feet on these stacks, just a little air chisel and cleaning out. It's like a honeycomb, and you clean out they circle the bad spots. And
So heights didn't bother you?
no, I didn't. No, I did quite a bit of climbing. I worked on the railroad with a bunch of Spanish guys and did a little bit of everything. I mean, cleaned the inside of tanks, these big storage tanks. It was kind of a dangerous job because they want you to clean them, but they didn't want you to make any sparks because some of those bubbles still had fuel in them. And we could only be in 20 minutes, out 20 minutes, so you worked for 20 minutes and come out. Just about everything at a refinery I think I was involved with at the time. And Kathy worked for an accountant during the tax season, and she worked at some type of retail clothing store part-time. So yeah, it was a good experience for us. I had relatives out there, so my grandparents were out there, and then different ones in the family. And
So how long were you there?
we went right after Beats, I would say, the end of October, maybe, or early part of November, and came back in the spring in April or so, in that area sometime. So yeah. So
Anything about your military experience that you've done over or wish you'd have done?
I guess really no. I mean, I had the opportunity to move up in rank, but then it was, you had to enlist for more years, and it looked pretty lucrative when you don't have a job, but I guess I decided not to, girlfriend back here and things like that, so not really yeah.
So you've been a Legion member for about 55 years now?
55 years, and it could be 4 more if I could have joined when I got out of the service. But, and I really feel that's been an excellent experience. I mean, I was able to join the Legion. I was with some World War I gentlemen and heard their stories, and a lot of World War II members. I got to hear their stories, and then Vietnam, and you know,
Korean.
go on and on. Yeah, we didn't have a lot of Korean members, but we, you know, World War II. I mean, the place would fill up with World War II.
So how many, you've been on the honor squad for same number of years?
Pretty much, I think, because I remember marching with some World War I guys. So I would say maybe at least 50 years, if not.
You've been
And
doing
then
Memorial Day for,
about ever, I think. I don't remember ever missing one.
as an honor squad member,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't remember missing one. Oh, yeah, it's, you know, the Legion's been very enjoyable for me.
You've been commander, adjutant,
Yes, commander and adjutant,
and now you're the membership
yeah. Well,
officer.
yeah,
And it goes on.
it goes on. But, I mean, if everybody does a little part, it goes much better. And you know that for sure, because you've done more than a little part. You've been a big part of our Legion for the last 10, 12 years that you've belonged.
And so anything else, yeah?
No, I think...
About your military service?
Yeah, I don't think so. No. Yes.
Well, Earl, I want to thank you for doing this interview. Thank you for your service, and I know you're a very respected member of the community. Thank you, Earl.
Well, thank you, Keith.